and the famous example of Al-Asmaee, the great linguist, he says that I was in Basra and I used to study ilm. And I was in wealth. And this is usually the way that a student of knowledge, his life will start off in difficulty, with sacrifice. And initially, he will have to sacrifice. And he will not see the thamara, which are the fruits of his studying in the beginning. Okay, the fruits, the thamara of ilm is not something which is attained in the beginning, fi bidayat talab. It's only something which is attained after a long time. The person, he remains, and if he's able to be patient, the student, if he's able to be patient upon the difficulties of studying, only then will he attain the thamara of ilm. And afterwards, when he attains this sweetness and the fruits of his labor and the time that he spent, then he will be pleased and he will be thankful and he will be grateful for every single moment that he spent. The difficulty or the mashaqqa, the sacrifices that he makes, those sacrifices will be forgotten. He'll forget the difficulty, but the benefit will remain. So Al-Asmaee, he says that I was in Basra and I used to study ilm and I was poor. And he said that in our street there was a grocer, someone who would sell vegetables. Al-Asmaee says whenever I would leave in the morning, he would ask me, where are you going? Where are you headed? So I would say, I'm going to Fulan al-Muhaddith. I'm going to Fulan al-Lughawi. I'm going to so and so to study ulum. When I would return at night, when I would come back at night time, he would ask me, where are you coming from? So I would tell him, I came from Fulan, so and so alim in so and so field. So one day he looked at me and he said, Ya hada. He said, accept my advice. You are young, anta shab. He said this grocer, he says to Asmaee, he says, فَلَا تُضَيِّعْ نَفْسَكَ. Don't waste yourself. Don't waste yourself and don't waste your time. Don't study. Attain and work towards attaining a livelihood and something that you can make money from. That will benefit you. As for these books and whatever the halaqat and the lessons that you attend and all of this is a waste of time. You're not going to benefit from it. And then he says to him, he says, give me all of your books. Give me all of your books. And what I'll do with these books is that I will take them and place them in, and they called it in Arabic, ad-dan, which was a utensil, which was big, in which they would place vinegar. And also, back in the days, they'll also play alcohol or wine in this, like a barrel, if you want to call it. But obviously, the Muslims, they would place vinegar. He said, I'm going to throw it in that, okay, and I'm going to continue adding water, okay, and we'll see what happens. And then the grocer, he says to Asmaee, if you gave me all of your books, I wouldn't give you in compensation of all of these books, even a little bit of vegetables. I would give you nothing. So Asmaee, he says, every single day when I would go and I would come back at night, I would hear him say this to me. He would tell me, you're wasting your time. Do something with your life. Don't waste your time. These books are not going to benefit you. This knowledge is not going to benefit you. You are wasting your life. Earn a livelihood and work and earn money and wealth. So Asmaee says that this, hearing him day in and day out, this would hurt me and it would annoy me to the point where I would start leaving my house in the morning before he would come and wake up, and I would come back at night after he would be gone. And then Asmaee says, I continued in my path, in my journey of studying, to the point where I had to sell a lot of property, and I had to sell a lot of the necessary things in my home because I didn't have wealth. And he says my hair was disheveled and my clothing was dirty, and I was in a very weak and bad state. He says, whilst I'm in this state, the khadim of the Amir of Basra, whose name was Muhammad bin Sulaiman. Muhammad bin Sulaiman is the Amir of Basra. He says his khadim, he comes to me one day knocking on the door, and he says, Ajib al-Amir. Answer and reply to the Amir. So Asmaee, he goes to the khadim and he says, look at me. You think it's befitting that I go to the Amir in this situation? So the khadim understands. He goes back to the Amir and he comes back with a box filled with clothing, new clothing, and a bunch of bukhur. And he also comes back with a bag which has 1,000 dinar, gold coins, not darahim, dananir, 1,000 gold coins, which was a lot of wealth. And he gives it to Asmaee and he says, take care of yourself, fix yourself up, and then the Amir is calling you. And he also brings, Asmaee says he also brings with him a tray, a massive tray that has many different types of food in it. So Asmaee says that I prepare myself and I fix my situation a little bit. And then I go with him to visit the Amir. He says, when I arrive at the Emir invites me into the palace and he sits me down. And then remember, this is the Emir of Basra. This is the Emir of Basra, Muhammad bin Sulaiman. He says to Asmaee, he says that I've received a letter from the Khalifa, Harun al-Rashid. And he is looking for someone. He is looking for someone to teach his kids. And I feel you are the most suited for it. So go to the Emir, go to the Khalifa, and abide by his command. So Asmaee says, okay, I'll go grab my books, whatever I need, and I will go to the Khalifa. So he says, I come upon the Khalifa, and I enter upon him, and he looks at me and he says, Anta Abdul Malik al-Asmaee, that you are al-Asmaee. So I say, yes, I am al-Asmaee. So he says to him, اعلم أن ولد الرجل مهجة قلبه وثمرة فؤاده. Harun Rashid looks at Asmaee and he says, listen, the child of a man, he is the point of his life. He is what he yearns for and strives for. And I will give you my child and I want you to teach him. I want you to teach him, considering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a witness. And don't teach him anything which will harm him in his religion. And so Asmaee says that I accept and I will start teaching. And then Asmaee goes through the process and he stays. And over there, he's granted a beautiful place to live. And he's served in every way possible. And he is teaching the children of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And he says to the point where I attained a lot of wealth. And whenever I would attain wealth, I would purchase land back home in Basra. Okay. And I was building for myself a massive house and a place of residence in Basra. And he says this continued until the child he grew up. And Harun Rashid was very pleased with the teaching that I had done. And so one day Harun Rashid, he calls Asmaee to his office and he says that, what do you want? Make any wish and I will grant you that wish. So Asmaee, at that point, he has so much wealth. He says to him that, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I have everything. Everything that I could have ever wished for, I have it at my disposal. But one thing, if it's possible that I can travel back to Basra for some time and you write a letter to the Emir of Basra that when I come to Basra, every single person in Basra should come and they should welcome me as I'm entering Basra. So Harun Rashid said, yes, of course. So he writes a letter to the Emir of Basra. And Al-Asmaee, he returns back to Basra. And for 3 days consecutively, every single person, starting from the nobleman of Basra, then the normal average person, and then the lowly individuals, they come to say salam upon Al-Asmaee and welcome him into Basra. And Asmaee says, on the 3rd day, towards the end of the day, I seen that grocer as he walks and he's coming and he enters the palace to say salam upon me. And when he sees me, he recognizes me. So he's like, Abdul Malik. And Asmaee started laughing. He's like, Abdul Malik, that's his actual name. He says, only Harun Rashid used to call me Ya Abdul Malik. Everyone else would give me a laqab. But this grocer, he remembered me from back in the days. And so Asmaee, he says to him, I took my books and I put them in the dan, which is this utensil, this barrel. فَخَرَجَ مَا تَرَى فَخَرَجَ مَا تَرَى فَهَكَذَا الْعِلْمِ يَا أَحْبَابِ. Ilm, the thamara of ilm, you will not witness it and see it in the beginning. However, if you are patient upon talabul ilm, eventually you will see the benefit of ilm. Yes, it requires patience, but it will make you an imam.